The cries of newborns echoed in the hospital as Zara stared in disbelief at the twin babies she had just delivered. One had chocolate-colored skin like hers and her husband's, while the other had pale white skin and light hair. She was in shock. The midwife handed her the twins with a reassuring smile, but Zara could hardly breathe. How would her husband react after seeing the white baby? She wondered. Suddenly, her husband, Captain Mwangi, stormed into the room, his uniform rumpled and his face contorted with confusion. He had been with his mistress when he received the call that his wife was in labor. Now, standing in the delivery room, he froze. His eyes darted between the twins and his wife. He kept looking at the twins and his wife, and he couldn't understand what was happening. What is the meaning of this? He thundered. How can you, a black woman, give birth to a white child? I'm not white, you are not white. So how comes? Is there a mix-up? I will bring my fellow soldiers and we will beat all the doctors in these hospitals until they produce my babies, because these are not my babies. The doctor stepped forward calmly. Please, calm down, Captain. There is no mix-up. Your wife had just given birth to fraternal twins with a rare condition called heteropaternal superfecundation. It occurs when twins have different fathers. These words hit Captain Mwangi like a thunderclap. His face darkened with rage as he stared at Zara, who was now crying silently. He grabbed Zara's arm. You cheated on me, you ungrateful bastard! He spat. I should have left you in the gutters where I picked you up from. How dare you? No, Mwangi, Zara cried, tears streaming down her face. I have been faithful to you. Please, let me explain what happened. Please, my husband. But Mwangi didn't give her a listening ear. Shut up, you imbecile. Explain what? You think I can believe anything that comes from that cheating mouth of yours? Zara begged for Captain Mwangi to listen, but he slapped her hard, leaving her cheeks stinging. Then he stormed out of the room, leaving Zara holding the twins, her heart broken and her mind racing. The day after the birth were filled with torments. Zara was discharged from the hospital, but when she called her husband to take her home, he didn't pick up. Zara decided to return to the barracks alone, holding her twins. When she opened the door to their house, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her husband was holding his mistress on his lap, laughing as they watched the TV. So, you've come back, Mwangi sneered, rising to his feet. Take your bastards and leave my house. You have no place here. Yes, leave, the mistress added as he held Mwangi's hands. I have already packed your little rags in a bag. Your clothes are at the door. Leave and let me and my hubby continue to enjoy our time together. Zara proceeded to kneel. Please, Mwangi, they are your children, Zara pleaded. Look at Mark. He has your eyes. He's your son. But Mwangi only scoffed. And what about the white one? Whose eyes does she have? Take your lies and go. Leave my house, woman. Mwangi and his side chick began throwing her belongings out, tossing them into the dusty courtyard. Zara was still begging for Mwangi to hear her, the twins now crying loudly. The soldiers and their families gathered, drawn by the commotion. They too couldn't believe that the captain's wife had given birth to a white child. Some laughed, others whispered. She's brought shame to him, one woman said. Imagine giving birth to a white child, yet both her and the captain are black. She's a prostitute, a cheater, an unfaithful woman. Her husband commanded the people to throw her out of the barracks. Zara's heart sank as villagers escorted her out of the barracks. They insulted her, calling her names and humiliating her. One even threw a stone at her. Holding her babies, Zara walked away, her dignity in tatters but her determination intact. As she walked away from the barracks, everything started to click now. Her husband had been cheating on her all along. He had a mistress all this time. She remembered how distant Mwangi had been when she was pregnant. He came home late, often with the scent of perfume that wasn't hers, but she dismissed it. When she asked him why he came late, he always had excuses that he was busy at work. He had a lot of responsibilities as a captain. She believed him blindly, but her husband always spent his evenings in his mistress's small rental apartment, laughing and sharing moments that should have been reserved for his wife. Zara continued walking, wondering where she was going to. She was an orphan and she had nowhere to go. Miles from the barracks, Zara found herself in a small and familiar village. She was exhausted from carrying the twins and her belongings. Exhausted, she approached a village elder, a kind woman named Mama Aisha, who took pity on her after hearing her story. "You can stay in the old hut by the stream," Mama Aisha said. "You can pay for it when you are already settled down and when you have the money." Zara nodded. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with gratitude. The hut was small and dilapidated, with a thatched roof and mud walls. But to Zara, it was a sanctuary. She laid her twins down on a makeshift bed and stared at them, tears streaming down her face. "I will not give up. I will not let this break us," she vowed. "We will survive, my children." The next morning, Zara used the little money she had to buy fruits, and she began selling them by the roadside. She balanced the tray of fruits on her head while carrying Mark, one of the twins, on her back, and Malaika, the other one, by her side. Villagers stared at Malaika, the white twin, wondering what Mzungu was doing in their village. And by the way, Mzungu is a white person in Swahili. She must have been with the Mzungu. She thought the Mzungu will change her life for the better. "Now see her," they said, pointing at Zara. Despite the taunts, Zara persevered. She continued to work hard, doing multiple jobs to feed and clothe her children. Her children were her source of strength. As years passed, Zara's strength became the cornerstone of their small family. Mark grew into a studious and determined boy, while Malaika grew into a very beautiful and talented girl. She often liked watching her mother making clothes on her small sewing machine. Malaika was beautiful, a cheerful child, but life in the village was unkind to her. Other children refused to play with her, calling her names and mocking her pale skin. Some refused to play with her because their parents warned them not to play with Malaika, saying that she was an evil child. "Why am I different, Mama?" Malaika asked one evening, her eyes filled with tears. Zara kept her daughter's face in her hands. "Because God made you special," she said. "You are a very beautiful girl. Never let anyone make you feel less than you are." When Mark and Malaika turned 4, Zara enrolled them in the village school. She used her earnings from selling fruits and making people's clothes to buy uniforms and second-hand books. At school, Mark excelled quickly, earning the admiration of his teachers. Malaika, on the other hand, faced relentless bullying from her classmates. "Poor Mzungu," they teased. "Are you lost? This isn't your place." Malaika would often come home in tears, and Zara would comfort her, whispering words of love and encouragement. But the pain in Malaika's eyes was evident. She often wondered why she was different from everyone, and she wished she had their skin color so that she would not be bullied at school. One day, Mark stood up to the bullies. "Leave my sister alone," he shouted, clenching his fists. She's smarter and braver than all of you. You're all pathetic. If you try and bully her again, I will bring her Mzungu dad and he will shoot you with his gun." The children, hearing this, feared for their lives and they stopped bullying Malaika, and Mark became Malaika's protector. As Malaika grew older, her awareness of her differences deepened. She avoided mirrors and refused to participate in school events. She grew up feeling like she didn't belong. Her striking pale skin and soft golden hair made her stand out in the small African village. Whispered followed her everywhere, some filled with admiration, but most with suspicion or ridicule. "Are you really Zara's child?" the villagers teased cruelly. Over time, Malaika began to doubt herself. She avoided mirrors, afraid of the reflection that stared back at her. "Mama," she asked one evening, "am I truly your daughter? Please, tell me the truth. I don't look like you or anyone here." Zara knelt before her daughter, taking her hands gently. "I will say it over and over again. You are my child. Never doubt that. You are beautiful in your own unique way, and one day the world will see it." By the time the twins were 14, their individual talents began to shine. Mark was brilliant in school, and his academic achievements earned him scholarships to prestigious schools. Malaika wasn't that bright in school, but Zara noticed her daughter had a gift. She had a natural talent for designing clothes, especially ones that blended traditional African prints with a modern stylish twist. She would spend hours sketching designs or stitching patterns on old pieces of fabric Zara gave her. One day, Zara wore a dress Malaika had designed to a village celebration. The intricate patterns and bold, colorful designs caught everyone's attention. Women began asking where she got such a beautiful dress. "My daughter made it," Zara said proudly, pulling Malaika forward. Malaika blushed under their stares. I just made it for fun." "Fun or not, it's stunning," a woman exclaimed. "Can you make one for me?" Word spread quickly about Malaika's talents. Soon, women from nearby villages were lining up outside their small home, eager to have her design something unique for them. With Zara's encouragement, Malaika began to believe in herself a little more each day. "You have a gift, my daughter," Zara said one night as they worked together under the soft glow of a lantern. "Your hands create beauty. Use that gift to show the world who you are." Malaika started experimenting with bolder designs, blending African prints with styles she imagined from stories she read. Her confidence grew with every satisfied customer who walked away wearing one of her creations, and she began to feel beautiful and loved. As years passed, Mark, the school genius, went to university to study medicine, and Malaika started her own clothing line, employing local women to help with production. Her unique African-inspired prints were celebrated not just in her village, but everywhere in Kenya. People only wanted their clothes to be made by her. With her money and success, she built a beautiful home for her mother where she stayed. As Zara and the twins lived in happiness and a life of comfort, Captain Mwangi was in the barracks, living a miserable life. His mistress and other ladies that he loved left him because of his inability to impregnate them. He was infertile, according to the doctors. Plagued by guilt and regret, he began to think about Zara and the twins. What if they were really mine? He wondered. He had tried to find Zara all these years, but she seemed to have disappeared. With each passing year, the regret grew heavier. One fateful day, Mwangi arrived in Zara's village following rumors of a brilliant Mzungu designer. When Zara had a knock on the door, she was shocked to see Mwangi standing there. "What are you doing here? How did you know where we live?" Mwangi proceeded to kneel, Please forgive me. I have come to see my children. Please, let me make things right. Zara stared at him, her voice cold. You want to make things right now? After throwing us away, calling us bastards? Mwangi begged for forgiveness, but she wasn't ready to let him off easily. The twins, hearing the commotion outside, stepped outside, and Mwangi couldn't believe how beautiful and amazing they had grown to be. My children, you look so beautiful, he said, tears in his eyes. Mommy, is he our father? The twins asked. If so, please let him in. As they all sat in the sofa, Zara decided to break the silence and tell the story of what happened, why she had a white child. When you fell ill back then, Mwangi, she began, you were on the brink of death. The doctor said you had 2 days to live unless immediate treatment was administered. The bills were enormous and I had no means to pay them. I went to your family, begging them for help, but they turned their backs on me. They said I was your wife. It was my responsibility to save you. I went to our friends, to neighbors, to anyone who could listen. Zara continued, her voice breaking. Some gave me what little they could, but it wasn't enough. Every door I knocked on, I was met with excuses or empty hands. Meanwhile, you were wasting away, and I was desperate. Zara looked down, her tears falling freely. There was a British doctor, Dr. Crayford. He was the one who said he could help, but he made a condition. He told me to come with whatever money I had that night, and that he would add the rest. Her voice dropped to a whisper. When I arrived, he gave me a drink, saying it would calm my nerves since I was very stressed. I didn't know what he planned to do. When I woke up, Mwangi's breath hitched as the gravity of her words sank in. When I woke up, I knew, Zara said, her voice trembling. I knew what that monster had done to me. I swore to report him, to fight for justice. But he looked me in the eye and said, if you report me, your husband will die. You don't have money to get him treatment, and also, with my connection, I'll make sure no other doctor treats him. But if you remain silent, I will save his life. Her voice grew firm. I had no choice, Mwangi. I loved you. I couldn't let you die. So I swallowed my pride, my pain, and my shame, and I said nothing. He kept his word and saved your life. The twins, she said, looking at Mark and Malaika, who sat quietly, their faces pale with shock. Mark is your son, Mwangi. He is your blood, your legacy. But Malaika is the result of the price I paid to save you. Malaika's eyes filled with tears as she looked at her mother. Mama, why didn't you tell us? Why did you carry this alone? Zara's face softened as she turned to her daughter. Because I didn't want you to carry my shame, my pain. You're innocent, Malaika. You're my child, and I have loved you both equally with all my heart. Mwangi's face twisted with emotion, anger, guilt, shame, and disbelief. You mean to tell me you sacrificed yourself to save me? Yes, Zara said simply, and I have lived with the consequences ever since. You threw me out, humiliated me, and disowned your children, all because you didn't know the truth. Mwangi fell to his knees, his head in his hands. I was blind. I was a fool, Zara. I don't know how to begin to make this right. Please forgive me and let's try to be a family again. Malaika and Mark shouted, No, Mom, you should not forgive him. You should be ashamed, Dad. You left her when she needed you the most. You don't deserve her forgiveness. Ah, my children, please calm down. He is still your father, Zara said calmly. Mwangi, I already forgave you a long time ago and found peace. I hold no grudge against you. As for being a family again, we can't. I'm getting married next month to the love of my life, but you can see the children anytime you want. The twins looked at each other surprisingly and then looked at their mother. Mom, really? You want to say Zach proposed? Where is the ring? Oh, we're so happy for you, Mommy. The twins said, smiling happily. Captain Mwangi was just there, looking at them with regret. If only he would have listened to her back then, he would be with her, the woman who loved and sacrificed herself for him. The lesson that we learn from this story is that we should not be too quick to judge people or situations. Before making huge irreversible decisions, we should first seek the truth. Anyway guys, that was it for today's story. I really hope that you enjoyed it and learned something out of it. I hope to see you in my next video. Kwaheri.